All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I was gonna say it is afternoon. It's 12 o'clock here in College Park, so we have hit the afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining. I'm really excited to have you all here. We're gonna see if we get some more stragglers coming in, but appreciate you all joining us for our first official event to get Professional Development Month kicked off and started. If you want to, feel free to drop your name, your graduation year, where you're joining us from in the chat. Um, Hopefully some of you are somewhere warmer than College Park, and if not, well, we're all in this together. Unfortunately, Ume and I were just talking about how we are ready for some warmer weather, but this seems to be the longest cold snap we've had in some time. But we're gonna wait and see. We've got a few more stragglers coming in. We'll get the program kicked off and started. So yeah, but again, feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining us from, your graduation years. Silver Spring, Analia, so you're just right around the corner from us. So you two have been stuck in the snowcrete, as they're calling it down here. Brandon calling in from Frederick. I grew up in Frederick, so good to have another Frederick person in the room. Thanks so much for joining. Let's see, we've got some more folks joining us in. Um, so yeah, again, if you're just joining us, feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining us from, your graduation year, and your major potentially, and we'll get things underway here in just another minute. But I hope everybody's doing well so far today. And can I just get a quick thumbs up from somebody just to see that you can see the slide deck that I've got? Perfect. Thank you guys so much. All right. Well, I'll go ahead. I'll get things kicked off and started just so that way we can keep rolling along. I know you guys are joining us during lunchtime, so appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time out of your day. My name is Antoine Jordan. I am a program manager here at the Alumni Association on our career programs team. So a lot of the work that we're doing is all the career related support services that we provide for you, the Terp alumni, and to help make sure that you all have opportunities to network with one another as well, which is why we are here for today's Terrapins Connect live virtual networking for first generation Terps session. So let me just get us rolling here. My name is Antoine Jordan, and then I'll introduce you guys to Ume in just a minute and let her talk a little bit more about herself. We'll have a little bit of a conversation with her, and then we'll do some group networking. We'll give you all a chance to actually connect with everyone, and get to know each other a little bit more. That's what this whole thing is for, is to help you all network and connect with one another. So this is an interactive session, so if you can join us with your camera on, that's fantastic. If not, again, we know we're being flexible in the middle of the day, whatever is easiest for you. But again, this is going to be an interactive session. And as Stephanie, yes, this session will be recorded, so we'll post this. On to the Terrapins Connect or our YouTube page. The networking part won't be. I'll turn the recording off by that point, so that way you guys don't have to worry about being recorded for your networking conversations. But we'll put those into small breakout rooms, so that way you guys have some intimate space to connect with one another. Then we'll do some takeaways, and then we'll wrap everything up, so that way you guys can get back into your day. But I want to get started again. I work here in the Alumni Association, but I'm really appreciative of Ume Habiba, class of 2024, who's joining us today, a first generation Terp. And so, Ume, I really just want to, kick off this conversation with you. Why don't you just, introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about, who you are, your major, what your experience was like at UMD. And if you can weave into that a little bit, what really meaning, what being a first generation college student, means or meant to you during your time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Antoine. I'm so excited to be here and thank you so much for having me. So, hi everyone. My name is Ume. I am a graduate of the University of Maryland, as Antoine mentioned. I graduated in December of 2024 with a degree in information sciences and a minor in Quest/consulting, which was a part of the Smith Business School as well. I was a first generation student. I'm currently working at Microsoft as a full stack software engineer with an Azure hybrid networking. I work remotely in New York City. And outside of work, I do content creation and I'm also really involved with LinkedIn as well. I have a book coming out with LinkedIn in the next couple of months, which is really exciting. And yeah, so to me, being first generation, means that I'm the first to do something, which I know can be daunting for a lot of people. But for me, it's really exciting because for me, it's a challenge and I love challenges. And that also meant that I could pave my own path. And that's so special in so many ways. And I think that a lot of people can think of that in a way that would prohibit them from achieving a lot of things, but for me it opened a wide net and it allowed me to explore so many different facets of like what not only technology but also just of my career that I wanted to explore. And my career is by no means, I would say, like traditional. Yes, I work as a software engineer, but I have so many what a lot of people call side quests going on. And um I kind of love that. And if I hadn't been first generation, I don't know if I would have taken upon a lot of those opportunities to kind of explore what I wanted to do. I feel like I would have kind of, if my parents worked in corporate, if they had completed high school, they would have, had a certain path set out for me, like you have to do this, this, and this. And I would have had to do that and not really go off of that path or off of that track. And it's so special to me to be able to pretty much do whatever I want to. And I think that's so cool that like as adults, like once you graduate college, you get to do whatever you want.
That's awesome. And that's absolute. I love sort of your whole framing of, being a first generation student. I was a first generation student myself too. And it really is, there's a whole lot of things that you sort of experience and go through as a student that, your peers around you aren't necessarily going through that. I love that you framed it as side quests, which is a perfect topic to sort of transition into. This next question I have for you is, you described it as some of the experiences you had as, being these side quests, helping you learn, those skills and things that were going to be valuable to you that your peers around you might have already had under their belt or already have connections to. But for you, were there moments where, being a first generation student felt like it was a disadvantage for you, or were there moments where it felt like it was a real strength for you in your experience as a Terp?
I would definitely say, I mean, besides everything that I just said, that was all positive. There were definitely a lot of negatives and a lot of moments where I felt as though it would have been so much easier had I had some support or had I had people in my life that knew how to navigate not only college but also the corporate world. As so I started out at UMD as a computer science major, and there were many reasons why I ended up dropping. And one of the biggest reasons was, I guess, I felt that there was such a lack of support that I was getting. And there were other other people in my classes and other peers that did have that support. And for a long time, I felt so alone. And even navigating technical interviews, I remember my first technical interview. I walked into it freshman year thinking, wow, like, they're just going to ask me a little bit about my resume. It's going to be a behavioral interview. And then, I'm good. I was like, I'm confident I'm good at behavioral interviews. So I got this. And I walk into that technical interview and they present me with, two coding problems. And now, for the regular old Joe, they're going to be like, Ume, that's common sense. Of course, everyone knows that, for software engineering internships, you have to know, like, you have to do coding interviews. But for me, I didn't know that. And I didn't know anyone that would know that. And so that was a really big shock to me. And of course, I failed that interview. I didn't get the offer. And that was a really big learning lesson for me later on when I was, navigating a lot of that. And I really did honestly encouraged me a lot to not like it was one of the really big reasons why I started posting online because I was like, well, I know this is common sense for a lot of people, but it wasn't common sense for me. And if it wasn't common sense for me, it must not be common sense for a lot of other people as well. So I think that it was all like, although it was a negative, I was like, there's a way that I can use this experience to help other people navigate this field, especially if they are underrepresented in this field, because they are the people who have the least amount of support out of everyone in the tech field. So yeah, I would say navigating a lot of like my corporate life was tough, and even it is tough today as well. I wish I could ask my parents a lot of questions like, how do I navigate corporate politics? Like, my parents can't tell me that. They have no idea what that means. So I kind of have to rely on either my coworkers or my siblings maybe, or my peers. So yes, it was rough, but I would say it's taught me a lot. And I'm trying to use that to kind of pay that forward in some way.
Absolutely. And I like that you talk about it. It's really those common sense things that we have to learn as first generation students. It's a lot more than what you might necessarily be anticipating. And those are some of those things we call it in higher education, sort of the hidden curriculum of college, all the things that you need to learn and know outside of the classroom, because you're here ultimately to get a job and be successful professionally. But that's a lot of extra learning that you have to do outside of the classroom. You have to do the searching and side questing to get and have those experiences to learn that stuff. So how, you're a more recent grad. How has some of that side questing for you sort of shaped your approach to some of your early career decisions and some of the job searching that you've done now as a recent a recent graduate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's made me more privileged. And I know that's kind of shocking to hear, but being able to do all of these quote unquote side quests has allowed me to kind of create my own career journey and not just, depend on a corporate job for job security, which I don't even think exists nowadays, especially in the tech field. I think the reason I feel so privileged now is because of my side quests. I know that I don't have to rely on my corporate job in order to keep myself on the trajectory that I want to stay on and that I want to be on. So for example, like say I get laid off from my job today, being able to like not even posting content, but like all of the connections that I made, all of the networking that I've done, all of the organizations that I worked for very little money, little to no money for. Those I know those people would be there for me, like if I ever need them. And I think that if I didn't grow up first generation, I wouldn't have done a lot of that work that I did for like a lot what a lot of people would consider very little. But for me, it was more than just getting like compensation. It was more like making an impact. And I think that that was one of the biggest gifts that I got out of being first generation was being able to be motivated not by finances but more so motivated by helping the next generation, helping the current generation. And so I think in a lot of ways, it's really shaped my career in a way that I no longer have to depend on external factors. Like I made my own career and I know that, I'm in charge of my own path. And tomorrow, if I want to leave my job and just go and start my own company, even though I know nothing about starting a company, I know that I'm going to figure it out in some way and I'm going to be able to do it, whether it's successful or not, that's not in my hands. But, it's I think shaped me in a really good way because it's made me not depend on things that I would say a lot of other people, especially our parents, depended on. Like they depended on job security and they were like, well, this is something that I'm going to do for the next 30 years until I retire. And I'm like, that's my biggest fear. I don't want to work. I don't want to do that until I retire. I want to do other things. I want to do really fun things. I want to do things that, make me feel fulfilled. And yeah, and I think that being able to create my own career myself and create my own job title, and being like a creative technologist, what a lot of people call it, is really really cool. And I'm really lucky
Yeah.
to be able to do that.
That's awesome. And I resonate so much with that. I'm sure others, if you're also just for the folks just joining us, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. This is going to be an interactive session. And if you want to come off camera, there's going to be some in-person or just small group networking happening. So feel free to come off camera. Feel free to drop in the chat any questions that you have. But we're having a conversation here with Ume, who be the class of 24, about, what this whole first generation experiences from being a student and transitioning that into your career. My dad worked at the same job for 37 years for his whole entire career from 19 to 58. He just retired this year. And when I graduated from school and was like, Dad, I'm going to do this job for the first 2 or 3 years, but I might switch and do something else. It was so perplexing to him. He works in a trade. And so no concept of sort of like what working in a professional sort of corporate style setting is like. It was really jarring that I couldn't necessarily go to him or my mom for that advice or expert help. So So I totally get it. I think one of the things that you sort of brought up a little bit in just what you were talking about previously are sort of, some of the shocks, the adjustment pieces that you have to go through when you do enter the professional world. So were there any things that were sort of shocking to you out of the gate when you first started working? Technology is a whole field in and of itself, so that's a whole different ballpark too. But what were some of the shocks that you experienced that might not have necessarily either been things you were prepared for or things that you kind of had a sense of and were like, okay, let me navigate around this, let me find my way through.
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest shocks was having to plan for my death, having to plan for the long term, life insurance, all of these benefits that, again, we don't learn about in college, learning about finances, financial literacy, all of this stuff. I remember my first month when I had to sign up for all of this stuff, and I was doing it with my brother, and I was like, life insurance, I have to plan for when I die right now. Like, this is crazy. And like, how am I supposed to know what kind of plan I'm supposed to have or what kind of plan I should have? And like, how do I know how much I'm supposed to invest into my 401k? What even is a 401k? And I think that was one of the biggest shocks because you would think that like they would teach you about this and that like you would know a little bit about this, but I went into it and I was like, I know nothing about this. And if now that I look at it, I'm like, this is free money that so many people that don't know about these things are throwing away. And they're throwing it away because they don't know about it. Like my sister, she's 8 years older than me, and she just signed up for her 401k because she's like, wait, what is that? And I'm like, you've been working for like 10 to 12 years and you never signed up for a 401k. You wasted, like, you lost out on so much money. And that's something that she didn't know either because, she had no one to ask for about those things. So I would say signing up for a lot of those benefits was jarring, and it was definitely a learning lesson that I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I have to plan for not only the rest of my life, but like I have to learn about a lot of these concepts that I didn't even know. Investing my 401k, like you don't even just put money into the 401k, you have to like go in and manually invest that. So that was like, it was so much that I had to learn about that first like month and a half of being at my job.
It is that adulting switch happens really quick when you have to learn how to manage some of those things or these things are being put in front of you. And if you don't have that exposure to it beforehand, it can be really, really jarring and sort of a weird feeling of having to plan for those things or even think about those things if it's something that's not even on your radar. I'm going to start working towards wrapping up our conversation so we can give the folks here a chance to network with one another. But two more questions for you, Ume. One, how do you stay grounded in your identity as a first generation student, a first generation alum, a first generation Terp, in work and in your personal life too? Like how does that show up for you?
Yeah, like I kind of touched on earlier, I try to give back as much as I can, and the way that I can do that at scale is by yapping at a camera and posting online. And I find so much joy in that because you can put the least amount of effort into a video. You can, like talk to a camera for a minute or 2 minutes, and even getting like 500 views, that is 500 more people that learn something new than 5 minutes ago, before you posted that video. And I think that that's so cool that anyone, not even just me, anyone here is able to do that at scale. And not only in that, I also love being able to provide like as much like financial literacy as I can, because as someone who, started kind of investing in the stock market when I was working my tech internships, when you are like, I think something that a lot of kids, and especially in the tech field, don't really think about when they are interning at these really big companies is you are making a stupid amount of money for someone who's only 19, 20, 21 years old. And you don't need to be spending all of that money. Those are the years where that money can really do the most work for you. You don't have to do anything in order to make that money work for you. And I think that early on, I was really lucky to be able to learn that from the internet, like learn about a Roth IRA and learn like, hey, I should at least be putting something into a Roth IRA. And so today for me, I'm like, if I can at least help one person a week open a Roth IRA who's like from the ages of like 18 to 22, that like I'm good. Like I'm very, I'm good for the week. And I think that that's really important because more than just like why, as first generation students, why do we even go to college, right? Why do we decide that we're going to be the generation that like breaks that cycle of not, getting an education? It's to build a future for ourselves. And one of the ways we build futures for ourselves is through finances and through financial literacy. And that is one of the things that I think like more than even like a degree, right? More than even a degree, financial literacy is so important. You could work a minimum wage job in your early 20s and still make that money work for you in such a profound way. And a lot of people don't know about that. And I was really lucky to be able to become financially free. I started from literally $0 to my name when I started college to a six-figure net worth by the time I graduated college because I learned how important it was to make my money work for me more than me working for my money. So yeah, I would say the number one thing is by trying to teach as many people about financial literacy as I can because it is one of those fundamentals that is really important to help build that generational wealth and to make being first gen truly truly worth it.
That's fantastic, and kudos to you. That's not easy work, and again, that's all that additional, the hidden curriculum that you have to learn on top of, just trying to survive as a student. Stay on top of your grades, stay on top of the networking that you're doing, and the other, responsibilities, things that you have going on in college. If you're working, holding a part-time job, if you're involved in extracurriculars, if you're trying to do your MBA online, and you have a full-time career, any of those things, these are all new things that you have to learn in the process. So kudos to you for really doing that work early and hard. And I guess to wrap up our conversation, what when you look back at your journey as a Terp at Maryland to where you are now, I know it's only been like a year and a half, 2 years since you graduated, but what gives you the most pride when you look back at your journey as a Terp here at Maryland?
Oh, I would say I know that I made the most of every single opportunity that I was given, and I said yes to as much as I could. And that in that moment was really special to me and something that I tell every single college student today is, as a college student, you will never have as much free time as you have like now. And I know that like school is going to take up a lot of that time. And I know that like, especially as computer science students, projects are going to take up a lot of that time, but you still very much have a lot of free time. And I took advantage of that free time. I would do like a trip to New York for work every single week or almost every other week. And it was like, that was a trek, to come up to New York City and to be here only for a day. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep all night. So I could take like a 3 a.m. or a 2 a.m. bus. So I could be in New York by 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. for like work. And like back then I had the energy to do that. If you asked me to do that today, I would be like, absolutely not. Like, no, I will spend the night in New York. I will pay an outrageous hotel price. But like back then you have the energy, you have the time, and you also have the privilege to fail. And even into new grad and post grad, you do have the privilege to fail, but like you kind of have more responsibility. Like you can fail, but you also need to work so you can afford rent. But like as a college student, you can fail, you can learn from those failures, you can learn what you like or you don't like, and you can learn and you can try new things based on that. And I think that that was one of those things that I am really proud of myself for doing. Like I did the most random stuff ever. I did like a lot of marketing. I took on a bunch of marketing roles. I took on like I was like a computer science teaching assistant for three different computer science classes. I was in a consulting program in Quest. So I did like all of these random things that all kind of connected in a way. And through that journey, I also learned about things that I absolutely hate. Like I did computer science research for a semester, and going into college, I thought, okay, I'm gonna go into college as a computer science major. I'm gonna graduate, and then I'm gonna get my master's degree in computer science. And the way that I can do that is by doing research. I love research so much, so I thought, and then I did research, and I was like, I actually hate this so much, and I wouldn't have known that unless I actually did it and I tried. And so I'm not doing my master's degree in computer science today, and I have to thank do like trying out research for a semester for that. So yeah, I would say it's truly making the most of every opportunity, whether I liked it, whether it worked out, or I didn't like it and it didn't work out.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ume, for sharing your story with us and talking to us just a bit more about, what the first generation experience is like and how that transition to life after UMD is a challenge in and of itself. So I really appreciate it and appreciate your enthusiasm. So what we're going to do now, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to hop into some small group networking. So for those of you who are just joining or just hopped in a little bit late, this is an interactive session. We want to give you guys the chance to network with one another and talk a little bit more about your experience as a first generation student, what life is like for you now as a first generation alum. And so there's a couple of questions here. I'll read them out real quick and then I'll drop these in the chats in your breakout room so that way you have them. But share your name, your major, your graduation year, a word that you use to describe your first generation college experience, a challenge you faced as a student or an alum that you didn't necessarily expect, if there's any specific questions that you're trying to answer about where you are in your journey or your career journey now that you want to chat with another first generation alum about, what kind of support or connection would be helpful. And then, if there's a goal, if there's something that you're working towards, if it's a 2026 New Year's resolution, or if it's just a goal that you have for yourself that you've been working on for a while, share that with one another. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pause the recording. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope y'all were able to have some good conversations with one another and get to network and connect with a fellow Terp that you might not have had the chance to before. As we sort of wrap up today's session, I just want to toss up some reflection and takeaway questions for y'all to think about as we walk away from today. So, one, if there is a takeaway that really resonated with you from today's session, and if you want to, feel free to drop your answer to any of these in the chat. Um, Happy to sort of, we can take some time to share that. But if there's a takeaway that resonated with you, if there's a strength that you feel like you've developed or honed in because of your first generation journey, and whether you realized it at the time or not, if this is something that is a new revelation to you or something that you've known for a while and something that's a point of pride for you, that strength, feel free to think about that. What's a small action that you can take after this session, whether that's following up with somebody, asking for support, or even reframing your story? I know for me, sometimes I am super stubborn and can get stuck in my head and think a certain way. And it's really hard for me to sort of reframe things and think about it from a different light or look at it from a different angle. And so I know that's something that's hard for me to do, but what's something that you can do after this session? And then finally, what's one question you feel more confident asking now than you did before this session? So think about some of those things. Think about what it really means to be a first generation Terp too, and how that added layer of identity really is a source of pride and a source of something that you can take away when you're networking with fellow Terps, if you're out there meeting other people, if you're talking to people about UMD. Um, it's something that you can always talk about. So we'll go ahead and I just want to close this out for the day, but I certainly encourage everybody to check out all the professional development a month events that we have going on. Today's the first day of the month. We've got events clean through the entire month. So please check those out, both online and in person. Tuesday, February 24th is our National Networking Night. We are very excited about this event that we're doing for the first time. Truly a coast to coast Terps networking with Terps all across the country. There's events happening right here in the DMV College Park area, all the way out to the West Coast. So definitely, if you can attend one of those to network and find some fellow Terps to join, please do that. We have a full slate of online career sources here at the Alumni Association, from cover letter guides to webinars, all kinds of different resources. No matter where you are in your career journey or stage, those resources are there for you to take advantage of. Speaking of which, we hope that you join Terrapins Connect. That's our online networking and mentorship platform. It's a great place to network with fellow Terps. It's not like LinkedIn where people are posting and boasting about the next great thing that they've done. It's really a Terp community where Terps are there to help you network, answer questions that you might have, find fellow Terps who are in the same career field or interested in the same things as you. There's a job board for Terps posting jobs there, so please feel free to join that. Through Terrapins Connect, we do some online mentorship programs as well. We've got a couple coming up, including an ag and natural resources mentorship program getting kicked off in a couple of weeks. And then later this summer, we'll have our recent alumni mentorship program and our entrepreneur mentorship program. And then finally, what I'll do for all of y'all, we don't want you guys to lose touch with each other. So I'll make sure that we send out the names of everybody who participated today, especially the folks who you were paired up with in those breakout rooms. So that way, if you want to find them, contact them either on LinkedIn or through Terrapins Connect to continue your conversations. That way you can do that. But I really, again, appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today for Professional Development Month for this Terrapins Connect live networking session. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm always here and happy to help if it's questions about the Alumni Association, about career sources or different events that we've got going on. If you need help getting connected with a fellow alum or just some help sort of, searching through the next stage in your career journey, need some help sort of doing that path work for you. That's what the Alumni Association is here to do, is to help you guys with that as well. We always want you to know that this is a home base for you. So don't hesitate to email me, but I hope you guys had a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining. Stay warm, and happy Professional Development Month. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.